30 seconds. Hey, Sharavius. Okay. We will do Lori after the 6:17 break. Well, good morning, Dallas-Fort Worth, and it is JP and Dr. B time, and I'll tell you what, it's awfully nice to have Dr. B back in the studio. You know, Dr. B, it took 9 people to replace you last week.
Well, I'm sure it didn't take that many, but it's good to be back.
Well, now I'm going to tell you, we had that many people in studio, and we had that many microphones on. It took that many people to replace you. I mean, you're just, yeah, action. I think you're right. I think you're right. You know, where's your backpack?
It is good to be back.
It's good to have you back, that's for sure. And know that we were praying for you here at the JP and Dr. B show. And I'm excited. We've got Dr. Norm Clothier, our expert resident doctor. Good morning, Dr. Clothier.
Good morning.
The coffee is flowing, isn't it?
Absolutely, it is.
Tell you what,
antioxidants.
Antioxidants. That's right. Excellent stuff. We've got Mustang Callie in studio with us.
Morning. I have so much energy. I'm standing today. I'm standing in the studio.
I don't know about that. You know, what do you think that is, Dr. Clothier? Is that a syndrome or a disease?
I think it may. Yeah, it's a disorder of some sort. We got to define that a little further. No doubt.
We may need a little bit of research on that, Dr. Clothier. So we might want to contact UT Southwestern on young people and energy at 4 a.m. Something wrong with that, you know.
Could be
it's
being
an
out of
aberration.
school.
It is. That could be. We're out of school. And we also have Malaysia in studio with us as well this morning, and she's going to talk to us a little bit later about her adventures at the Galleria this weekend.
Sounds good to me. Good morning, everyone.
All right. So, folks, we're going to jump right in. Today's show, we're going to talk about women's health. We've talked about men's health in November, but we have one of our listeners send in a request. We talk about the thyroid. Of course, you know the thyroid, Dr. Clothier, it's this big gland we learn about. We want to make sure we know it's not an organ.
Sure. And actually, it's a small gland, I might say, but it has a big role, definitely. So you're right. But a gland is something that puts out chemical communication to other parts of the body, and then organs are things that do a function, like the heart pumping blood and the liver filtering things. But the thyroid could be seen as kind of like a thermostat in a house. You know, if you have a 3,000 square foot house, a 1,200 square foot house, or a 20,000 square foot house, you have a very small unit in the thermostat that basically controls the temperature in several rooms. And that's kind of how the thyroid works. It's a small gland right in the front of the neck. In men, we'd consider it to be in the area of the Adam's apple. In women, of course, don't have an Adam's apple, but it's right at the front of the neck. And that very small kind of butterfly-shaped gland produces the hormones that drive the function to the body in many various areas. So we often talk about being euthyroid, meaning normal thyroid. Some people develop hyperthyroidism or an overactive thyroid, and then many more people develop a hypothyroidism or a low thyroid. And after a while, we'll talk about thyroid disorders like cancer. But when looking at the thyroid, if you're hyperthyroid, in general, the body goes into overdrive. You might have a racing heart, you might be jittery, shaky, lose weight unintentionally. That's why a lot of people kind of want to be hyperthyroid in a way. Talk about that again here in a minute. But it's not a healthy way to lose weight, of course, if the body's sort of in overdrive. And a lot of people have even like anxiety symptoms or various just overdrive type issues to the body, diarrhea and such, and maybe excessive sweating. With hypothyroidism or low thyroid function, everything kind of slows down. So people tend to get tired, lower heart rate, constipated, cold maybe when they shouldn't be, kind of a lack of response in the body to that.
So do we have weight gain that comes along with that as well?
Absolutely. Hypothyroidism is a common cause of weight gain. There, of course, are many other common causes, such as not exercising or overeating or eating incorrectly. But the hypothyroidism absolutely can cause weight gain, fatigue, just kind of the slowing down of the body.
Now, when we talk about that in women, now can it happen? And this is what one of our listeners was kicking in about. Can it cause significant weight gain? I mean, let's say I'm eating somewhat healthy. I'm not going to say that
Sure.
this person's eating absolutely healthy every day. And let's say I am getting out and I'm doing some exercise. But all of a sudden I gain like, I don't know, 8% more
Sure.
weight than what I have ever normally carried.
Absolutely, that can happen. You know, it's all a matter of perspective. The joy about human medicine and the body is everybody's different. So if your thyroid slows down a little bit, you might see 2 or 3 or 4 pounds of weight gain over a few months that just would be uncharacteristic for you. If it slows down significantly, of course, you'd have much more weight gain. And some people do, you know, it's almost like going down a hill gradually or falling off a cliff. You know, some people just have failure of their thyroid gland suddenly and, of course, have many more symptoms. And, you know, other people, it may be more insidious in its onset.
Now, can the hypothyroid, I'm going to say hypothyroid, but can the thyroid, when it goes into either mode, whether it's on the high end or the low end, can it cause emotional or mental health issues?
Absolutely. Hypothyroidism is a great mimicker of depression. Hyperthyroidism is a great mimicker of anxiety. You know, in other words, you could have the completely classic symptoms of depression if you're low on thyroid. I think it's a very fair thing to screen the thyroid when somebody is rather depressed. And of course, too, if somebody's gone from, you know, what we would consider rather normal mental health to suddenly having a lot of anxiety or panic attacks, whatever, it's very fair to check to see if the thyroid's in overdrive.
You know, Dr. Bateman, do you see that in your practice? Do you ever recommend they go see their medical doctor to check that out?
Absolutely. One of the things we do when we're doing an intake is to ask, how recently have you seen your primary physician?
What an excellent question.
You know, because oftentimes, as you say, it is depression is not really depression, it's a medical cause. And we can do counseling till the cows come home, as the old saying goes, it won't do any
Right.
good.
Absolutely. I saw some cows in their home on the way over here. The reason we're talking about the thyroid with women's health too might be of interest to people that 8 times more women develop hypothyroidism than men for unclear reasons. It is research just has not yet been able to answer why women are much more prone than men. Interestingly, hyperthyroidism, overactive thyroid's about equal and not nearly as common, but 8 times more women will develop it. And the prototypical, if you want to look at it that way, woman would be about 35 to 45, give or take. Now, I have teenagers who are hypothyroid. I've seen people that develop it at, 68 or 70. So there certainly is a wide spectrum, but the typical time would be around 40. So we often recommend screening the thyroid once every year or every other year from 30 to 40. And then once a year after 40, because it's common that we see some disorder in the function of the thyroid.
Is hypothyroid more frequent than hyperthyroid?
Absolutely, much more so. I don't have a specific number to quote on that, but it's a much more common syndrome, and it's much more insidious too. It can creep up on you gradually. Many people who are hyperthyroid tend to notice the difference in racing of the heart, shakiness, tremor, again, weight loss and such. So it's much easier to spot hyperthyroidism coming or overactive thyroid than it is under.
So what are the symptoms that say like a 25 to 30-year-old should look for if they think they might have a thyroid problem? When is it like, okay, I need to go to the doctor, I think there's something wrong?
Yeah, there are the ones we've already talked about, like the thyroid being overactive, like a racing heart or sudden anxiety and such, or a slowing of the body, like a low heart rate or unexpected weight gain, certainly typical in women. Irregular cycles can be a clue as well. But one of the interesting ones tends to be that if you get a hoarseness of your voice, that can be the thyroid enlarging, trying to kind of crank out more thyroid, if you will. And so it'll get bigger and bigger. So if your voice changes or you have trouble swallowing, that can be a subtle symptom as well.
Well, folks, you're here on 620 KEXB with JP and Dr. B, and we are talking with Dr. Norm Clothier. We're talking a little women's health today, and what we're talking about the thyroid. We had a listener that actually submitted a question and asked, can we talk about the thyroid, and can we talk about how it impacts the woman, because it seems to impact women more than it does men, and we're going to get into that in the next segment, and maybe some of the whys, which I don't know that we have a lot of answers for. I know that there's a lot of inconclusive information out there, as Dr. Clothier and I were discussing, prior to the show beginning, but we are going to talk about the differences possible. And then, Dr. Clothier, when we come back, I'm also going to ask you about the Adam's apple again, because, you know, and I don't mean this in a joking way, and so I don't want folks to take it that way. I do mean it seriously, but I have seen women that do have an Adam's apple.
Sure.
And,
Yeah,
you know,
or so you think.
well, or so I think. So we're going to talk about that because I thought I did. And anyways, but I wanted also to let everybody know that this segment of Family Health is brought to you by Family Healthcare Associates. They have a doctor for all your family needs from prenatal to seniors. Family Healthcare Associates at FHCATX.com. That's FHCATX.com. Did anybody catch the Miss Universe pageant last night?
Oh my goodness. It was
I didn't
horrible.
You know, I did not either, but I heard about it this morning. And Dr. Bateman, you might want to send your card over to the agent for the Colombian Miss Universe
Yeah.
contestant.
Or Miss
Sure.
Columbia.
Or for Steve Harvey.
And he's
I don't
local.
know
He,
who to feel more bad for.
you know, that's just got to be crushing because you know you can't let that thing ride. It's not one of those things you can just gloss over. You have to bring it back and go, oh man, did I just make like one of the biggest mistakes being watched all over the
Yeah, it's
world.
gonna be on the internet forever.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't see it, but I did hear that he did take responsibility for his mistake. And yes,
Well, that's way
absolutely.
good. No, that's
Very
way
good.
good.
Way
point.
good.
So, you know, so folks, anyways, we just wanted to kick that around a little bit, and I may kick that around some more, and want to send out my my big heartfelt condolences to Steve Harvey. But stay tuned. We come back. We're talking women's health and the thyroid. 6:20 a.m. KEXV.
I wanted to ask you,
I just
Oh,
got
sure. Yeah.
how rare do you see thyroids in children?
Yeah, I have two patients who are teenagers with hypothyroidism. One was diagnosed at 12, and that was a rapid weight gain. I mean, it was obvious, you know, and did the blood work and all. And the other one was
The camera.
When we come back, I'm going to go with
about
Lori.
15.
Actually,
And,
when we
she
come
was
right
diagnosed
back,
with depression.
I'm going to
She-
go
she
with
went
one of our
from, like,
plays from the
active
Galleria.
athlete into
Then
someone
Lori,
like
then
second
back
grade
into
who
the
did
doctor.
Nothing, and we did blood work, and she was hypothyroid. So both were female, so it's pretty rare because you know I see a lot of kids, a lot of teens,
No, I haven't.
and the fact that there are two speaks to the
I
rarity.
sent you.
I was going to ask you
I
that
sent you an
next,
email.
and then
Uh-huh,
I also want
okay.
to ask you, whenever a child is
We
would be
did that.
diagnosed with a
Yeah.
thyroid,
Mhm.
like
Isn't
what
that-
do
we practiced
what
it,
type of
didn't we?
sympathy do you give to that, or
He was
what
like,
type of
well, let me
advice would
check.
you
I
give to
said,
that
I
kid?
think we can
Because I
figure
can
this
only
out because I
imagine having a
kind of
thyroid.
halfway remember.
Yeah.
I said, you
Like,
plug
Well,
this
I
in.
feel like I'd be
Well, you
We
depressed.
figured
have-
the board out. We got the board to
To
work.
be
and-
specific, you have a
It's this
thyroid, you
one.
just have a normal
Normal,
functioning
right.
thyroid. And so I
Oh, I
would
haven't pushed it
encourage
yet.
them that it's just like anything else, it
It's
can be
this
treated
one.
and monitored. It just means you're going to basically see the doctor more often than your friends.
Oh,
You
is it?
know, that's kind of it. So I'll try to throw that in there too. So I think that's a good question.
Okay.
I think with many medical things, you know, it won't kill you
Right.
if
He
treated.
can't.
And
He can't.
therefore, if you
Charade
just
is
manage
talking.
it, that's
Oh,
the key.
go ahead.
So,
Okay.
you know, and I think you just have to adapt that into your life.
Okay. Have we gone through? I thought she gave us 18 of them. Oh, okay. I'll have her give us some more. Okay.
Yes.
All of them sound different to me today.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, and I'm hearing like a static.
Especially
Yeah.
in his.
Yeah.
We dumped all of the ones that said.
They just, I don't know, the balance is different today. I don't know.
Me and Malaysia think
You're
that your
right.
mic
Thanks
sounds
for
a
doing
little
that, by the
low.
way.
Sure.
They were great.
Sounds a little better.
Let me hear you. Oh yeah, that sounds good.
Okay.
What about JP's? His mic sounds like staticky.
Okay.
It's not bad, but it was just a little.
Just a little. Yes.
Gotcha.
But it was cool.
Unless, because I don't think he's too close.
Now,
to
and
the
you're
mic.
welcome to use those.
Okay,
Tonight.
I was gonna ask you.
Yeah, yeah. I sent you an email. I said, feel free to use these as well. Go ahead.
Start the new job.
Not until the 11th.
It's cut off. Oops, you can't hear me. We're back on again. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Talk for me, JP.
Talk again.
Talk
Say something.
again. Can you hear me on the? When the stuff is playing in the commercial, normally I can't hear them.